All right, I think we're good to go.
Perfect. So then I can go ahead and officially call the meeting to order. First item up, are the approval of the July 20th minute. And I will entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right. And a second.
Can't be that hard, guys.
Anybody?
I'll second.
Was that
All right.
Kevin?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm assuming we don't have any discussion, but does anybody have any discussion on the minutes? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, motion carries. Approval of the minutes are set. We can move into group updates, hotels and staff. I guess we'll just shoot that over to Jim right away to see if he has any updates.
Yeah, nothing to report, just, still super busy and now getting busier with the Delta and the mask mandate coming back and everything else. So really no change on the business transient front. We also haven't lost any large group except for Epic dropping, I don't know. I haven't checked today, but I was told that more cancellations today or in the last 24 hours than what we saw last week. So
Oh, no,
yeah,
No.
that's going in the wrong direction.
yeah, yep.
Oh, dear.
So nothing otherwise really to report, I guess.
Yeah, that mask mandate came at probably about the worst possible time.
Yeah, it did.
I didn't have a chance to look at that. What is the mandate requesting or requiring, I guess? I should say.
All indoors starting the 19th through the 16th of September.
Oh, my.
For just 1 month. I haven't read it.
Until they extend it on the 16th.
Yeah, at least they're not restricting gatherings yet, but it's Dane
Yeah.
County, so who knows what's gonna happen there, but
Right.
if they do, then yeah, it's not gonna be a good thing.
Yeah. I know, I feel like just right when things are starting to get on track, I was just talking to the salesperson, who took over for me at North Central, and they're just jam-packed through October. It's just crazy busy right now, and
Yeah.
and they're turning stuff away left and right. And I don't know, we'll see what happens. On Badger's side of things, we just took a pretty large cancellation on for the Eastern Michigan game over the Ironman weekend out of COVID fear. So hopefully that doesn't continue. Hopefully those are one-offs, but I don't know. I just think it's hard to say at this point.
Yeah, we are also shutting down rooms now, which is the first time we've had to do that. Due to business levels and lack of housekeeping staff, we're actually shut down this entire week just trying to get ready for Epic, which now looks like maybe we didn't have to do that, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's too bad.
That actually could make our whole budget conversation obsolete.
Yeah, it could definitely affect some things.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that, Jim.
yeah, it's
That's not good.
Has anyone heard if they're limiting the attendance at Badger games?
No, they're recommending masks. That was the last thing that I've seen.
yeah, it was indoor, so indoor areas, or if you're in a box or anything like that, you're expected, but if you're in the bowl, then you're not required currently.
Jamie, can I put you on the spot and ask you if DM has had any intel prior to the mask mandate?
You mean just in general related to the conversation, or specifically
Yes.
about, so yeah.
Or has that group met that you were, that little coalition that you all were working with?
We have not brought that,
Okay,
group back yet, and hopefully we don't need to. Hopefully this mask thing is the the end of it, but we have checked out in on it a couple times. You know, I was just on a call with like the emergency responders though, that gets updates monthly from Dane County Public Health. And they did kind of hint that there would be a mask mandate. You know, we're trending up a little bit. Like our hospitals still aren't full, but it's mostly people outside of Dane County. And there's people in ICU, but they can't tell, like, if you come in for a broken leg and then this wouldn't be ICU, just hospitalization or whatever, and then they test you for COVID and you have COVID, you know, what reason are you in the hospital for? But generally it's people outside, not in the hospital. We have 80 some cases a day right now, which is still relatively low. So hopefully the mask will be the end of it. But then just to piggyback off of what Jim said, the Epic cancellations, like we lost 1,000 last week, and then between Monday and today, I mean, there's probably been another 1,500 or so guesstimating the final count in terms of room nights, and that's for either two reasons. One, hospitals are requiring you not to, telling their staff they can't travel anymore. And then they've had a few speaker cancellations because of COVID, or because their hospitals aren't letting the speakers travel. And so they've lost some education sessions because of that, and then caused a couple of people to drop out as well, I think. And then in terms of other groups, we are certainly monitoring those. We did have one cancellation, which was also a healthcare related group, which was going to be in October. So those healthcare groups are definitely vulnerable. And we're monitoring the rest. I know we've got some where there's lower attendance expected. And so it's kind of like, how do you manage those?
Thanks.
Julie, do you want to continue with staff updates?
Sure. Murray, do you want to jump in and give an update on the work that we're doing with the branding refresh and where we are with the marketing agency RFP?
Sure. So for the branding refresh, right now we're in the final stages. I just received the downloads for our new templates for ads, and we will be doing a photo and video shoot for 2 days next week. So right now I'm working on getting volunteers, preferably in their 20s, which is really hard to find. So we're kind of, I've enlisted a lot of help. So right now that is in the works, and it's a 2-day video and photo shoot so that we have new collateral for future projects, but also a 30-second commercial. And right now our target date is still going to be in November. It just, we might not have as much done as we originally planned due to some setbacks in, we had a list of vendors that has gone missing. So we're kind of starting from scratch on some things, but we think we can still launch in November. We just might not have everything that we had originally hoped to have in our hands, which is fine because we are budgeting for some of that for next year as well. And as far as the marketing RFP, so we sent out the RFP and received proposals, and we interviewed 6 a.m. Kennedy Communications and Belter and Lincoln. And Kevin, thank you for being a part of that search committee. We did that 2 weeks ago, and we're hoping to choose an agency this week and let them know by the end of the week. Julie and I are actually meeting at the office tomorrow to go over everybody's notes one more time, and I've been calling references today. So that's where we are.
Thanks, Mary. And then Corey, for me, I wanted to let y'all know that our PPP loan has been forgiven, both the loan and the interest. So that was great news. B-Cycle is showing a renewed interest in Middleton and has had several conversations with my colleagues over in the planning department and with the city administrator. So I'm going to table any more discussion on that until we get to the 2022 budget discussion. The renovation work is coming along slowly but surely. We've contracted with a local architectural firm who has completed a building design for us, which has been submitted to our building inspector. So I'm just waiting for the approval on that. And then we can start moving forward with the RFP and the bidding process. So feeling a little bit better about the progress that we're making on that project. And then lastly, I did register the trolley for the Good Neighbor Festival Parade. And anybody that would like to ride along with us, we would love to have you. That will be Sunday, I believe that is August 28th, 29th. The parade starts at noon. We will be gathering at the parade's lineup probably around 11:15, 11:30. So if you're interested, can you just shoot me an email by Friday of that week, and then I will send you the map on where we'll be located. It's a lot of fun. We do the candy distribution. People, we kind of take turns alternating between riding and walking alongside and handing out the candy. And it's about a 2-hour commitment from start to finish. So I'd love to have you come along if you can join us. That's it for me, Corey.
You didn't mention who the celebrity driver is going to be.
Oh, that's right. Well, maybe we could have that be a surprise.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be an incentive to have people come out and ride along with us.
Right.
I think, Corey, that'll be your inaugural drive of the trolley, right?
Yeah. Well, I've driven it before, and I will say I don't like it. It's like driving a toaster with wheels, but
Yeah.
it's what it is. It's a
Moving
bona fide
very
experience.
slow though, Corey. That's the one
Yeah.
good thing.
Right.
The hard part. I will say too with that, not a discussion for now, Julie, but we'll have to, for whoever's interested in riding it, technically the federal guidelines for buses, I looked this up, is we are mandated to wear masks on federal. However, private charters is a different story, but I would probably just recommend, we're recommending wearing masks, and that's gonna cover the parade. So we'll have to probably wear masks for anybody that's riding or chooses to ride along.
Well, since you brought that up, is that going to change for the general ridership on the weekends? And should we be posting that somewhere?
Since that's technically, see, our line runs are public, and since that's public and not private, I would say that would fall under the mask mandated. If you were to ask me, I can verify that with John, but
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that should be a mandate for anybody riding the trolley. They should be asked to wear a mask. I'll
Can
make sure
you-
though.
Yeah, can you confirm that and let us know that right away? Because Murray's going to want to get that out in our on social media and or our promotional materials. Let the
I'll update the
hotels-
website.
Yeah, let the hotels know. We'll just need to get the word out.
All right. Is that everything for that?
Yes, thank you.
I think since Jamie's on, let's go ahead and just jump ahead to the MASC 2022 budget request. And get some discussion going there. Jamie, do you want to kick that one off or have any?
Yeah, I'm happy to kick it off. Julie, was the memo provided, was that provided in the packet?
Yes.
So everybody saw that in advance. Well, perfect. So Middleton's been a great partner since, I don't know, 2010, probably 20, is that right? Long time.
Yeah. As long as we've been here, right?
Yeah, exactly. So typically typically the Sports Commission receives operational funding for it. And then there's also this specific grant pool of money that we come to the commission for different pieces that we were going to use it for. And when it first started, it was 30,000. And then in 2020, we gave $10,000 back, I think, and reduced our spending in light of the pandemic. And then last year we worked with Julie to put in a request for 20,000, which we do have allocated towards a group. And so our current request is at 40,000 going into next year for the grant fund portion of it. And that is largely to help keep us competitive. It is incredibly competitive out there. We saw this after the recession and after 9/11 as well, where cities are just incredibly aggressive. And so we want to have as much tools in our tool shed to be able to compete. It's a good time knowing that. We think all the shows that got pushed from the spring to the fall are coming back, and hopefully they stay on track. I'll go to Connect at the end of this month. We have noticed it's either really aggressive, competitive out there, or people are taking their, they've been so busy trying to stand up their current events that they've been a little bit slower in placing future events. And so again, having those tools for those sales and marketing missions, and then also incentives to make sure that we're competitive is really critical to what we do. So happy to answer any questions about it that you might have, and go from there.
Anyone have any questions or discussion items? I can get something started off, I guess. And this, I guess I pose this as kind of a question, Jamie, because this did come up as in discussion. So I don't know if it was necessarily really black and white when we started doing this grant program on the, it was kind of, the idea was to dedicate funds to you guys to bring groups directly into Middleton. And you guys have done an awesome job with that. The question that we got asked is should those funds be used for sales missions and those types of things where Middleton may not necessarily be like the only thing highlighted or whatever. I mean, it was just there to, help us drive more business to us. And I was just kind of curious to see if you had any feedback on that or what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, so interesting question. So actually when it was originally, we've actually, I think, used it in a more narrow purpose than it was originally sort of described. It was even suggestion like if we needed to remediate like red and soccer fields, and it was put into place after suggested after the cyclocross national championships, where there needed to be some remediation, that this could be an avenue for that. We have not done that. So I think we've used it in a more narrow scope than what was actually originally prescribed, which did include the most obvious ones, groups that would impact and benefit Middleton, sales and marketing, things like that, that were sort of in the halo of Middleton, if you will. And we've tried to make sure that we're really as narrow as possible with that, as the Tourism Commission rotates over. And typically when it comes to sales and marketing, we generally try to use it to send a second person, not to send the main, to send the one, so that we're extending our reach with clients. And some of it definitely supports the whole area, and some of it's just we find stuff that's just perfect for Middleton. So I think the reality is the committee's been helpful in supporting those type of things, especially for that second person, which has extended our ability, and therefore Middleton has definitely benefited from that. And I think the reality is, if we don't look at that, we just won't have as much of an extension in sales and marketing. So
And just to follow up with that, like, I know everybody here appreciates everything you guys are doing. It's just conversations that come up when money is tight, and we're trying to not cut back or scale on any of our sales related items. So that was really kind of all that was, where that was coming from. And I guess I would cue it up to the, to the commission to see if does anyone have any questions, comments, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I would just add, again, we appreciate all the stuff in our collaboration together. And, if you feel like, hey, we can't get to quite 40, we'll work with you all and Julie to help get us all through this. So, but given the competitive set, we definitely wanted to put in for kind of where we were headed before, just to help us recover as quickly as possible. But, if we need to continue to kind of work through that in relation to the grant fund, then let's talk about it.
Julie, I don't recall, do we need an action item on this? Because this is really contingent on the budget being approved and what you enter in there, or was this more just for discussion purposes?
I think at this point, Corey, this is informational and discussion, and we can do a deeper dive when we
Okay.
get to the budget. I did put the 40 that Jamie has asked for as a placeholder in that line item for 2022.
Cool. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions at all or comments?
Yeah, we appreciate everything that they're doing for us, obviously. And I think just from once we get through the entire budget and look at it, hopefully we can keep those funds, where they feel that they need to be. But I see where you were going, Corey, with some of your questions. So, I mean, I think it's important that we look at it that way too.
Jamie's known me long enough to know that I'm coming from a good space.
Mhm. Yeah.
Cool. I think that wraps up that item then. And unless anyone has any other questions, and I think that, Jamie, you're welcome to stay on or.
Yeah, I'll listen in until I have to depart, if that's okay.
Okay. I am going to, Julie, do you care if we get the trolley one done really quick?
No, that's fine.
So Julie reached out to Mike, and he advised, basically, I can't walk out of a room now, so I can just turn my screen off. Technically, then I'm the public, for you guys to have the trolley discussion. So I think let's just go ahead and zip to that. I will defer this to Jim, and I can turn off my screen. I just wanted to, before I go, does anyone have any questions for me with regards to the trolley? I do think the numbers were attached. That's really all I had brought to the table here. But does anyone have any questions?
I don't.
All right, bye for now.
Just trying to scroll down and find the trolley information.
Oh,
here.
yeah, let me, sorry. Getting there.
Julie, I got to show you a trick. They're called bookmarks. And then
Oh,
you go
good.
right from the agenda down into your
Sure.
document.
Yeah, I'm all over that. Let me know when you want to meet.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
All right. Showing us passenger counts. It's pretty good usage.
Yeah, more than I would have thought.
Yeah, I guess personally, my perspective, I'll share it, is just that, if we're going to run it through August 31st, currently being that we're still able to hold big group gatherings and there are things coming into the backyard here on the route, if we're seeing numbers like that through August 31st, why wouldn't we extend it in a limited service, through the fall perhaps? I don't know. What's the, let's see. Does anybody else have any thoughts on it? I mean, I We brought it
I'm
back.
floored
down to-
with, Jim, I'm floored with how high those numbers are for
Yeah,
July.
so am I. You know, some of that I think was CrossFit, but we had a lot of different social conventions in the back here that I know are also staying at the North Central Group properties and what have you. So I mean, I'm sure that, you know, that's not all ridership just from out front of our hotel. It was getting used, I'm sure, throughout the route. Saturday, August 14th.
97 people, that's
Yeah,
it's a lot of people.
it is. I mean, how does that compare to the ridership before COVID? Do we have any idea?
You know, I went back and looked at the last report that I did, and unfortunately, it only reported out through July of 2019. So let me just quickly see if I have that. I was pleasantly surprised at how high the numbers were.
Yeah.
And I was also trying to match up what might have been going on in the community.
Yep.
Event wise that might have contributed to that.
Okay, how can I get?
I'm still searching here.
No worries.
I guess my only concern right now would be what's happening with this turn of events
Right.
and the will there be reluctance to ride on a trolley?
You know,
I think-
Delta's been a concern for quite a number of weeks now, and you know, if we're seeing, these are all different events too. I mean, you got the last couple of weeks of July, the 23rd, 24th, there were staff coming in from No Bull and Loudon Live, so that's probably quite a bit of that. And then
Right.
30th to 31st, you know, 6th, 7th.
Yeah.
So looking at that, and then Friday, Saturday was Trailog Stevna that was here, which was predominantly, you know, older demographic, and I would assume that some of those numbers were them.
Right. Yeah, I'm sorry, you guys. I'm not
Yeah.
finding anything for our numbers go from May to November. For some reason, we're missing the whole summer. But in 2018, for comparable weekends, the numbers were really pretty comparable to what is being reported out for 2021.
Yeah,
So not a big increase, but also not a decrease. It's really
Right.
pretty steady.
I mean, it's running far from empty on just about every night, you know, except for that one night you had 20 riders. That was on the 30th, but
What would be nice to know, and I've asked John if it's possible to do this, is when folks are getting on and off as far as the times. You know, do we
Yeah.
really need to run as late as we are? Should we think about starting earlier than that? So if you decide to continue this limited schedule for September and October, that would be one of the things I would go back and ask John if he's able to do.
yeah, I like that idea for sure.
I mean, Julie, if all of a sudden we see a big drop off in the next, you know, by the end of August, then can we change the schedule for September? Or do we have to make that change now?
Well, I think John's biggest concern is just finding drivers.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure it is.
And I think if we make a commitment, we're going to be held to the commitment because he's going to have to be making a commitment to drivers.
Got it. Okay.
I mean, I can talk that through with him. You know, and just ask if we can review it at the end of September for October. But you know, that's when the football season kicks in, and I would think we would get some ridership on at least those football weekends.
For sure.
So do we need a motion to do this now? Why Corey's not here? Is that what you're looking
Yes.
for?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful for me to at least have you all weigh in that way.
Does anybody else have any input on it at all, or?
Julie, what do you mean by or operating the trolley on an as-needed basis?
We could ask him if we could have it on call for, say, a football weekend. So we would ask to have it operating on whatever those dates are. Let's just say it's 3 dates in September and 2 dates in November. But we would not be running it on the other weekends.
Mm.
So more or less specifically by what we think would be busy event weekends.
That's going to be harder even for, if we do that.
Yeah.
Harder
I
for them
think
to get drivers too for that.
I
because
think it
they'll be-
will be. I think we're either all in or we're not in at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think it's harder for the staffs at the hotels to remember those. Okay, is it this weekend?
Yes.
Even though I know it's football, but
Right.
they've got people coming in and out and working. The restaurants have people coming in and out right now. I think
Right.
if we're gonna do it, we need to make it as simple as possible.
I would agree.
Good point. So we have the money in the budget for it, right?
We do. Well, I mean, we're operating at a shortfall, so we don't, but
But we already planned for this shortfall, right?
but we anticipated that the shortfall would occur. So yes, we have money budgeted.
Well, how much are we talking? If we decide to keep it, it's going to cost us what? Not
I believe it was 25,000 and some change to run it on a limited basis for the remainder of 2021.
Oh, that's a lot.
Were we going to do it all? Weren't we going to stop like October? Or were
Yes.
you thinking? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're thinking for the remainder of August and September and October, it's 25,000?
That would be
For-
total. That's the total for the season.
Oh, for the season. So let's say
Yes.
we're halfway through. No, not quite. So we're
Yeah, I
probably
haven't-
talking about 15,000.
Right. About 14, 15, somewhere in there.
I think we need to continue doing it. Because if all of a sudden in September, they lift the masks and people are out and about and then we don't have the trolley, then we can't get it back.
Yeah, I agree. We do have 2 football games in November this year as well.
Mm.
Well, we might be able to get a handle on those 2 events by looking at what happens in September and October.
I'm sorry, 1 in November. Looking
Okay.
at our Bloomington
Is it-
normal property.
Is it early November?
Yeah, second week.
Okay.
When is Parents Weekend? Because that's not a home football game, but that's going to be busy, right? That's
Yeah.
October 5th, 7th and 8th.
Yeah, I think you're correct.
That could be a busy weekend.
Mm-hmm.
October 15th through 17th.
15th through 17th.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me
No.
double check.
I was gonna say, because we were looking to bring a face-to-face meeting into town and one of the
Hold
hotels
on.
was really full.
Hold on.
I thought you told me it was that weekend.
Oh, here we go. October 8th through 10th. Is that what you said?
Yep.
I just hope there's no further COVID restrictions put in place. I don't know where this is going.
That will just be bad on many levels, Kathy.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to go back to that.
I think, Jim, if we can have a motion, we'll be
Yeah.
good to go.
Anybody like to make a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion that we continue the limited service through the end of the, are we saying football season? So the end through November or just through
Yes.
end of October?
Well, our official, our agreement has an ending date of October 31st.
Okay.
Okay,
And I did speak correctly initially. We do have 2 games in November. We have one the weekend of November 13th and one on November 19th. It's Northwestern and then Nebraska. They both generally travel well, but if that's the end of the agreement, I mean, that is what it is, right? And
then we have to start a new one. So then I make a motion to continue the limited service trolley schedule through October 31st. Is that
that'd be correct.
okay?
Anybody second that motion?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Yeah, like I said, I'm just really surprised at that ridership. That
Mhm.
kind of blows me away.
So
Yeah, good surprise.
Yeah, for sure. And then you wanted to ask John about perhaps finding out the timing of these riders, some sort of generalization, if it makes sense to adjust the schedule or,
Right.
okay.
I can't see you, Julie. Did you turn your camera off?
I don't know what's going on with my laptop. The camera is intermittent and, for whatever reason, it started out and now I'm gone. But I'm still with you.
In
Audio.
spirit.
In spirit, right. I think Corey is
Yep, Corey, you back?
listening in.
Is the Circle Wisconsin, is that similar to the Badger Bus where Corey would have a conflict on that also?
No, this is actually an organization that we belong to,
Okay,
Circle Wisconsin. And we've sponsored the tour operators registrations for the last several years. The couple of times that I went to it, we had numerous tour operators come up and thank us for that.
okay.
So I think we get a good return for our investment with that particular sponsorship. And then in addition to that, we receive an ad on the website. We are noted on all the correspondence. We're on all the sponsor signs. We have an opportunity to speak at the event, and we have an opportunity to put an item in the registration bag.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's a pretty robust sponsorship.
I don't know what I was looking at today. I thought that was something completely different.
Ah,
So,
Jim, I'm trying to get.
oh, it's a Dairyland Tours is what I was thinking.
That's
Yeah, that's what I was thinking
that's
of.
Corey's company.
Yeah.
I'm just
So
sending.
is Dairyland Tours agenda item similar to the trolley?
No, according to Mike, that's a separate business and is not related to Badger Bus Lines in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
So he's suggesting there is not a conflict of interest there because we don't have a vendor agreement with Dairy State Tours.
Makes sense to me.
I'm trying to get Corey back here for us. Jim, if you just want to keep moving through the agenda, I mean, we
All right.
can until he.
Sure,
pops
what's
back
what
up.
do we have up next here?
let's see.
Then we're gonna go through the NATO grant application. Is that what's next?
Yes.
All right. So NATO is the North American Dart Organization. Essentially what happened was due to COVID restrictions in Indiana, he had to scramble at the last minute and try to find a new property out of state that could host this dart tournament. And stumbled onto us and one of our enterprise sales organization sales people had him on the hook actually initially. This is just a couple months ago to come in, and he wound up finding another property in a different adjacent state that was less of a travel rearrangement for the attendees that had already registered. So we had lost out on it. But then he came back out of the woodwork about a month later and wound up, he signed a 2-year agreement with the properties coming in October here, contract over 500 room nights per year. They do about $60,000 in food and beverage at the property, as well as spill out into all the area restaurants and bars. As you can imagine, these are dart players that love to go into these types of establishments. So he's seeking $2,000 in grant funding. And he's going to go ahead and use it for plaques and trophies for the tournament and additional funds for promoting on social media with boosted posts on Facebook and things of that nature. So he's going to be drawing players in from Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, West Virginia, Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, obviously from our own state of Wisconsin and Minnesota. It sounds like it could be something that could be an annual for us. He started with 2 years. I've been reaching out to WAMO, which is the Wisconsin Amusement. WAMO is the same thing or very similar anyways. Trying to get a tournament down here for a number of years and have not been able to crack into WAMO. They do a lot of tournaments up in Green Bay, that kind of area up there. And so I was excited when I saw this come down the pike, and I'm glad that they're booked with us. But again, that's what he's seeking. He didn't go after the full $10 per room night. He's just looking for the $2,000 to help support some of the marketing and the awards. So.
Yep. I got a question about this. If this is like contracted, right? Like through next year.
Yeah.
So my question is I kind of feel like he kind of botched the grant a little bit.
Yep.
In like what he wants to use it for, like the plaques and trophies, like does not fall within. And I think we probably would want to see a little more there. What I was going to ask is, like, if we defer this, we're never going to be able to get it improved in time for his event this year, if that's what he needs it for. Right. I was wondering if we could approve this to get another event year out of him, like 2023. And I was just curious to see if that is that a stretch, or, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, I don't think it is. I think he's excited about the opportunity to hold one in Madison. So I think that he'd be open to the discussion. The only thing that I think might be a difficulty for him is trying to figure out dates for more than 2 years out that are going to jive with the rest of it, because the way it works is NATO is kind of the umbrella organization, and these tournaments then post all of their tournament dates to their website that they host, and then they try to place tournaments that will fit in with those sets of dates. In fact, after he had booked this with us, because it was such a scramble, he needed to find a new home for it or else you're gonna have to cancel it. He reached out about moving to the week following because one of the other smaller organizations is hosting a dart tournament in Minnesota the same weekend, but they didn't have the dates posted on the NATO website. but I do think that it's definitely something that, I'd be happy to talk to him.
What if we agreed to approve him the $2,000 that he could apply to his 22 event and just give him a date and say, we'll cut you a check for once you have dates, if you commit to dates for 23 or something like that, like rather than putting the money on the 23 event, if you took it out of the 22 calendar year.
Yeah.
It might be too technical or too much of a stretch. I was just curious.
No, I mean, I think it's a valid point.
Can I jump in for a second here? It's Julie. I did chat with Don yesterday. I had sent him an email on Friday and just outlined some of the things that I thought were going to be problematic with this submission. He did acknowledge the fact that this is very short term and he was having difficulty providing a budget for us to look at because his contract is based on a sliding scale. In other words, what he told me was that his room pickup will offset any room rental or hotel expenses. So he can't really give us any idea of what he's looking at until that room block cutoff happens sometime in September. I also told him that typically we do not give grant funds for the types of expenditures that he was proposing. But that if he could provide some information on what his expenses were going to be at the facility, that there might be a consideration of giving some funds to help offset those. And I would just bring to your attention that at this point, we have $1,900 available in that line for use for a grant. I don't think he'll be surprised if we deny the grant. And I suggested to him that he reapply for 2022. Maybe we go through a year with him and get a better understanding of what the event entails and what the expenditures are. And he'd have a better opportunity of receiving a grant then for the 2022 event.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I can tell you that he does not have facility fees here at the hotel. He might have been referring to how much rebate that he's going to get off of his guest room block.
That could be.
But the block opened up about 10 days ago. They picked up almost 200 room nights.
Wow.
And
So he wants 2,000 for this year, for 21,
Yeah,
right? Am I understanding that correctly? And then Corey, you were saying if we get him to add on 23, give him the 2,000 for 22, but not anything for 21. Did I hear you right, Corey?
Yeah, well, it just said if we deferred this based on what he's got or turn it down or whatever, he would get approved on the 21st, and then the 19th of October is after his event. So we would never be able to get the money in and approved officially with the minutes on time. So that's why I was just saying that if we bounced it to 22 and just put a stipulation that the grant, well, I think if we approve this, we need to ask for an adjusted grant for like stuff that, items that would fit within the criteria. But I don't know, it's always tough with these events that are already on the books, but we've done this before where we've used it as a tool to attract another year off of them, and I feel like it's been successful. And
Yeah.
I just thought maybe that could be an option too.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that he does have commitment to the guest room block of 80%.
I think either way, we'd have to go back to him on this one. And I just don't think that we would be able to approve 21 either way, whatever way we went about it. So like our options are just to straight up decline this. I don't think deferring is really an option because like I said, we wouldn't get it done, or we offer a counter back for 22, or just ask them to come back with 22 application. Anyone have any thoughts?
it's gonna sound stupid. I feel bad that we're denied. I understand why we would deny him for 21, because it's such short-term business and it's such a big chunk of rooms. And are they normally in more than one location for 3 years in a row, Jim?
You know, I think it's a situation where once they find a home that works, you know, because they're obviously a for-profit thing. So, I mean, once they find something that works for them and the community appreciates their business, I think they like to stay there. You know, so I do think there's opportunity for 23.
The other thing I'll share with you is that he did tell me that originally he was looking at Middleton for 2022. That was the initial discussion that he had with Amanda, Jim.
Right.
And then when they got bumped from Indiana, he said, well, as long as we're going to be in Wisconsin in 2022, I might as well see if we can just move it to Wisconsin for 2021.
Yep, that is the case, because when that original one was going to get displaced here in the original conversation with Amanda, she had put a lot of time and effort into, you know, relationship building with Don and you know, massaging the proposal to the point where it worked for him and you know, their business model, and then it fell through, and Don felt terrible about it, and he and she felt terrible about it. She called me up and, you know, he's like, but Don's promising me 2022. He's promising me. So I'm going to stay on him. I'm going to stay on him. Well, then, you know, that's when, like you said there, Julie, that then all of a sudden this other opportunity came up and, you know, he shoveled it our direction, basically.
Right. I think the biggest concern for me is what he's proposing to use the funds for.
Yep.
And you know, just on that basis alone, you could deny the request.
Yep. For sure.
That would also give him something to go by if he decides to submit a grant for 2022, which I would encourage him to do.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the request is denied, it's not really the end of the road. You know, you can just apply again. Really, because in a perfect world, if this was last month's meeting, we would have just deferred it.
Right. We just don't have the
Allowed
time
him to
for
come
it
back,
now.
but we're not able to do that.
I'm just kind of struggling with the fact that he couldn't present a budget.
Yeah.
Right.
I find that quite interesting. How do you plan an event if you don't have a budget?
Right.
So it's probably not going to break you, Jim, if we deny it and just ask him to come back for 22.
Not at all.
Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right. In a second.
I'll second it.
All right. Do you have any other discussion on it, or otherwise, all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Or raise your hand. Sorry, it looks like everybody. And did anyone oppose? I don't think so.
Kathy, just for clarification for the minutes, am I saying the motion was to deny the request and ask him to reapply for 2022?
Yes.
Okay,
Do you want to
Probably on
include
the-
2023 in that also, or no, or just stick with 2022?
I think I personally think 2022 is
Okay,
fine.
that's
But-
what I said then.
Okay,
Okay.
You know, and it is a first time tournament here in Middleton as well. So, I mean, not that I have any doubts that it's going to produce, especially based on them picking up 200 rooms already. But, you know, sometimes these types of competitions will pick up early, you know, shed a bunch of rooms late. You know, so I'd be a little nervous, I think, without having already held one of these here at the property to commit currently out to 2023 with them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Well, we could always play hardball and tell them that next year we want them to commit to 23.
There we go. After they keep us busy for 3 days or 3.5 days at the hotel this year, then yes, for sure. And in the backyard, you know?
right.
I was gonna say, Jim, that sounds like a lot of cigarette smoke and Miller Lite.
The last Whammo tournament that we had here, that was, it was bad news, but now there's no smoking indoors, so I don't have to worry about that. So just need a big cooler truck of beer in the fire lane back there and we'll be set.
Right. Well, cool. Well, that one carries in, and then yeah, we're moving into my grant. So I came forth with my grant last month, and just to kind of recap, Julie and I talked to Mike about this, and since my private company is not a vendor of the city, it's not a conflict of interest, and this is how we approve the remaining the motor coach stuff for this year. I've kind of been in regular contact with North Central Group. They are not in any position at all to be doing any of this. I don't even believe that. I really don't think they're going to anything next year. They're so short-staffed, and they just don't have the resources. And so I was kind of talking to Julie a little bit about it for next year, and kind of actually went through everything again. And I pulled out probably 3 or 4 things. I'm focusing more on more regional and group stuff, because I feel like next year for travel, at least what it's trending right now is it's trending towards 1 and 2 day, like local, more, 1 night, 2 night, not very long drive trips. I scaled back the dollars on this again. Other than that, it doesn't differ as much. Obviously, there's really no prediction with COVID, and if it blows up again, which I don't really think we can plan that it's going to. We just need to kind of plan that it's not. But if it does, it could be very well in the same situation again, where I might be looking at virtual stuff for next year. I sure hope that's not the case. But if that is, then it'll be a very much the same situation as it was this year, where you just be writing a check back. I try to budget this stuff as close as humanly possible, because I think I've scaled these down from like the peak years of doing this, probably like $8,000 or $9,000 less, just in light of budgets really. And Julie and I have already kind of talked about the numbers, so she incorporated this number in for her proposed budget. But I'll entertain any questions. Other than that, everything else is pretty much the same. Total dollar amount this year, I think it was like 27.9. Yeah.
Corey, what do you know about these groups? that
What do
you're
you
looking
mean?
at? Are you familiar with the American Bus Association and the Going On Faith Group and the Boomers and group?
Yeah, I've attended all these in one way, in some way, shape, or form. Like American Bus Association, I used to book when I was in North Central. I was booking 25 to 30 groups a year from them.
Okay.
On peak, so I was booking a lot. Now, with that being said, that is not the norm. That is a lot. If you can get 3 to 5 room nights off of each one, that's a plus, because they spend so much money and time. The big thing is if you can keep them here even for a day or two, because a lot of those groups would come and they would spend the night at North Central, with the hotels, but then they would go out to Spring Green, they would go out here, there, and everywhere, and they weren't spending all their time here, which they're not going to ever do that. That's kind of a fetch. But at least with the receptive side, I can actually guide that and mold that and get them to spend more time here. It's kind of like the group that I just had here in June, I actually booked from the Heritage Club show. And they ended up staying at Fairfield for 2 nights. They did, trying to think of what they did. Betty Lou, they did the mustard bites. They did a meal here. So I was able to kind of really dictate that they do everything here. So that's, I guess, really kind of being on the planner side, that's the plus, is I can ensure that those dollars are staying here. And then when the hotel bids come through, since this is a little bit different, because the leads will go, Julie or whoever, I don't know who will put them into simple view, but they'll also send out like hotel bids that way too, if like a lead or a bid comes through to me or something of that nature, if that makes sense.
So are any of these groups less, would have less rooms or less people? Which ones would be on the lower end?
It's really hard to say because it varies. I mean, you look at like internationally, like Ontario, for instance, they're not doing anything right now, but the idea of that is next November, and next November is going to be planning for 2023. So the border better be like under normal operating. You know, so a lot of this is going to be focusing on 2023, not 2022.
Okay. Okay.
And they're, just to clarify, these are not groups, they're associations. So they're
Okay.
going to bring together, on average, it's hard to average it out, but American Bus Association on a normal year will draw 3,000 people. And, you know, maybe they'll have 500 buyers there. You know, so on average, I'm probably meeting with 40 or so buyers per, if not more, sometimes less. So it kind of turns into new business and maintenance. But I've attended all these shows from the grants in the past or last year, just kind of cycled some in and out. So this is scaled back. I would say on a normal year, like when I was with North Central, I was attending probably like 12.
Okay.
There's certainly more that can be done, but I just put on here what I feel like was worth being done for next year, and then, you know, then look at it for 23 maybe. Hopefully it's just really hard right now because you've got, with COVID, there's so much turnover on the buyer side, and then you have companies going out of business too. So
Yeah.
it's trying to keep up with it all. And this is really the only way to do that, is to keep up with it. It's getting your new contacts and then figuring out who the new companies are. Any other questions?
I think you feel like the Ontario Motor Coach Association. This COVID stuff is just like, gosh, when's it going to be over? Are all these going to be a go? All these, you know,
Yep.
Well, I think that's the point though, is if they're not a go, then that's where I go back to Julie and say, hey, we either don't
Okay.
go or we do a virtual. And
Yeah.
so that's why I ended up writing, when I
That's
was
true.
with North Central, we wrote the city a check for $17,000 right at the end. Well, I think Julie finally got the check, but it was like 70% of what I had applied for. We almost gave the whole grant back.
yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of this, I guess, just helps me, and then I just work with it with Julie. And if something comes up, like I said, where I can almost probably guarantee you that something on this list will go virtual, if not more. I mean, hopefully not, but you just never know, and
Right.
you can't really plan for it.
Mhm.
So that's the situation that it would be back in, is just returning back if, for instance, you know, because if they go virtual, they're generally about $500.
Right. Much cheaper for virtual.
Yeah, and then so you've got, you know, look at that, like $2,500 on average per. I can tell you for sure that the group shows will probably be a go, because they're smaller. It's the larger ones that are really in trouble, I would say. I don't think American Bus Association's been my best show forever. And I don't even think there's a guarantee that that show is going to happen in January.
Yeah.
But it's, you kind of have to plan for it like it's going to.
Well, I
know?
think that comes back to with Jamie's request for funding for the sports commission, is that if we're not out there, if Jamie's not out there, Brandon's not out there, Corey's not out there at these shows next year, just because we don't know what's going to happen with COVID, then, we're going to suffer in 2023 because of it. So we'll be certainly paying for this then for the next couple of years, even if COVID disappears, right? And we put, not disappear, but put it at bay. Its attendance at these shows, I mean, it's 27,900. You said you book some of these shows 25 tours off of, even if it's just 5 tours per show, and you've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's 8 of them. That's 40 tours. Those 40 tours are guaranteed to be, well over the 27.9.
Right.
And I just want to I obviously can't guarantee anything for next year with a pandemic, but
Exactly.
that's under normal circumstances. Like the average spend of a group like that stays overnight is $10,000 a day. And that's why it's important to keep them spending their dollars locally,
Right.
over, like I said, them going to Spring Green or going to the Dells, and trying to get more than just their hotel spend. So, I mean, if you look at like the local impact from like when I was, from some of my good years at ABA, it was like $200,000 or $300,000 of income or economic impact in Middleton. So it kind of blows the grants out of the water per se. But it's just like I said, you just have to make sure that they're spending their money here more than just the hotels, that they're eating and that they're and doing these doing the experiences has helped tremendously, in offering those as attractions too. So
So at this point, we're looking for a motion to either extend to do the 27, correct?
yeah. I'll just abstain from this, Jim, if you want to just run this one, I guess.
I mean, does anybody have any additional input or questions on it, concerns at this point? Yeah, I know it's you look at it, you're like, okay, it's quite a bit of money. But my input on it, I guess, is just that it's money well spent. This is the kind of money that leads to actual dollars coming back
Right.
into the community.
Right. If they don't know about Middleton, they're not going to stay here. So you got to get your name out there. So.
Yep. And that's what, like I mentioned with Jamie and Brandon, they do the same, it's
That's the hardest part, honestly, is
Right.
getting where is Middleton,
Right.
and
Yeah.
trying not to be Madison's little brother.
Right.
It's just nice to be like, yeah, I'm in Middleton. I'm not in the city next to Madison,
right.
So like that's pretty hard. But I mean, it's come a long way with all the contacts, but it just sucks because the pandemic threw out probably 10 years of really hard work because of all those contacts and business contacts that moved on, got let go. So it's almost kind of like starting over, not from scratch, but
which in my perspective makes it even more important that when we can get back out there at these shows, to get back out there, because those connections don't have you anymore. You don't have them, so you need to reestablish them with the people that are now in those places.
I'm going to make a motion to go ahead and approve this grant for the 27. What do I need the exact dollar amount, Julie? I can't.
That's okay. It's
27.9.
yes.
Well, I
And
have one question.
Or, okay.
Should we, I'm not against this, but this is for next year, right?
Yep.
And we haven't even talked about the budget for next year. We're going to vote for a really large grant before we even talk about the budget for next year.
it would be stipulation on the budget being approved
Okay.
because we can't technically approve it.
Yeah, really, Kevin, anything that we're approving tonight is all contingent upon approval by the finance committee and the Common Council.
Okay,
So
I-
my
I'm-
motion should include that, Julie?
I just will automatically put that in.
Okay,
got it.
that's what I kind of
Yeah.
thought. Sorry. I forgot Kevin wasn't through this last year.
I can't technically even invoice Julie until January for this.
Right.
It's more or less a commitment thing is all it is at this point,
And we could come back to them and say we can only approve 20
right?
after the
Right.
budget's approved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it is subject to change.
So that's my motion.
Anyone want to second it?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Motion passes.
I abstain too, Julie.
Yeah, I got that, Corey. Thank you.
So we can move into the Circle Wisconsin 22 Midwest Marketplace sponsorship. I can talk about this. We've done this a number of years. We used to do, I think it was like $10,000 a year or something like that. We have partnered with them since basically the inception of the show. Marriott hosted the very first one ever. And you know, we hosted it the first couple of years. It's been really done well. Good. The nice thing is basically anytime Wendy's talking to anybody about it, to any buyer, it's your buyer registration is comped per the Middleton Tourism Commission. I've heard her say it a million times, you know, and then sometimes they'll come up with, oh, well, where's that? You know, and then it'll go into that. So it's kind of like a sell every time. And so she is asking for, if not really asking for commitment, but asking if we're interested because we have first right of refusal for the tour operator registrations. It's $5,000. In my opinion, it's the best bang for your buck out of any of their sponsorships. With all that in mind, I actually created the sponsorship for Middleton, so we've kind of held on to it. The show next year is in Bloomington, Minnesota, right outside the Mall of America. I believe, well, somebody, either Laura or maybe Jill, somebody will, I'm sure, attend, but I know they're having good interest and such right now. So we basically just need a motion to approve. What, Julie, when do you need that payment now? Is that out of this year's funds or is that out of
No,
next year's?
Wendy, the last couple of years, I've let her know that it's contingent upon approval by the Common Council. So she's accustomed to waiting until November. And then
Okay.
she sends an invoice in January.
Okay, so it's approval of the budget, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so if we choose to do that, then yeah, it would just be contingent on the 22 budget. Anyone have questions?
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing, is the total diamond sponsorship 8,500 then total?
No, it's $5,000. She's asking us if we want this tour operator registrations one again.
And not the Monday dinner thing?
No, sorry, no,
Yes.
no, it's just for the registrations. It's $5,000 commitment.
I'd move approval of the $5,000 contingent on the budget passing.
I'll second that.
Oh, go for it, Jim.
All right. Any other discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right, motion carries. She'll be excited.
Yeah.
Woo, I'm off the hot seat for a while here. I think Julie gets to go into simple view.
All right, I'm gonna try blow through this as quickly as I can. So Simple View, we are on the last year of a 3-year agreement with this company. They're providing the tool that we use for CRM. It's working very well for us. There's really no need, in my opinion, to solicit bids from another vendor. I took a walk through the contract, and we are going to have to make some changes on this based on what I went through with the city attorney in the first go around with the agreement. So I would ask, and I guess the other big thing is that none of the fees are changing for the next 3 years. So we've had the same fees for 6 years, that's pretty unbelievable in today's world. So I would just ask that you go ahead and approve this contingent upon approval of the city attorney, in addition to all the other contingencies that would apply to your approval.
Make that motion.
All right, Jim motioned and a second.
I'll second.
All right, Kevin second. Any discussion? No? All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, anybody opposed? I think that was everyone. All right, that one carries.
All right, moving on to GMCVB or Destination Madison. Again, we have a 3-year agreement with DM that is set to expire at the end of December. The reason I'm bringing it to your attention today is because there is a time frame on here in which we need to respond to renegotiate, or this will automatically renew. I think since we've gone through 3 years and there have been some changes at DM and we're undergoing some budget constraints, it behooves us to go ahead and open up a conversation with our partners over at DM and just talk through some of the terms of the agreement. And I wasn't here when this agreement was drafted, so I'm not sure why or where the 17% was derived that we're currently giving them. 17% on a quarterly basis of what our room tax collections are, which of course I can't find that here right now. But I
Remember,
would
it's
like
at the
to,
bottom
here
of
we
page
go.
1.
Yep, here we go. I got it. So I would at least like to have the opportunity to review that with Ellie and team and our finance director and our city administrator, and talk about how we want to move forward with that percentage. The last time we had the conversation, I did impress upon Diane Morgenthaler, who I worked with at that point, that we felt MASC has been a valuable partner and has been very beneficial in terms of the sports tourism market. We can actually see some ROI on the efforts of Jamie and Brandon. Not so much with the other side of the house and the meetings and convention sales. So I'd like an opportunity to talk a little bit to those folks too about what they're doing and how they propose to get Middleton more in their sales and marketing mix for meetings and conventions.
Julie, do they, and I'm sorry if you've shown us this before, can they show to us how many conventions they placed in Middleton?
Well, I'm sure they have reports that can be generated for that.
But
And
have
as
you
I
gotten
said,
anything like that?
No, and I think those are the kinds of things that we would want to start to be asking for, whether they're meeting on a quarterly basis or, you know, do we want year-end reporting? I guess just in general to put a little more rigor around how we're managing the partnership.
And one thing I'd like to add to that is that, you know, regardless of what Destination Madison's report would say sometimes about some of these programs that are placed here, it's not always a true lead, right? Because a lot of times if I have a convention, the lead might come from Marriott International, and then I'll get it from the CVB, right? So they're not always necessarily standalone leads, whereas the Sports Commission, you know, those are always true leads when they come over from the Sports Commission. I would not have received them through any other channel. So I just want to add that to it. And, you know, but I agree. I think the discussion is a good idea.
Mhm. 17% seems high.
Well, that was kind of my question, Julie. Do you know if that's like a standard amount they charge the communities around, or does that vary based on the community, or what?
I don't know the answer to that, Kathy, and that would be one of the questions that I would be asking.
Yeah, it seems high. I mean, I would
Madison.
think if you even started out at 15, it would be way more than I would be. That just seems like an odd number, and it seems like it was probably increased at one point or another.
Right.
Oh.
And again, under the circumstances, maybe we consider a lesser amount for 2022, knowing that we've all got budget constraints, and then gradually build that back up to the 17% over a 3-year period.
Or maybe not.
Or maybe not, yeah. I do want to, I've had a very good working relationship with everybody at Destination Madison, and I'm so appreciative of the things that they do for us.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're such a small organization here. I have a sales background, but I'm really limited as to what I can get out and do.
Yeah.
So we need them to represent us out in the regional, the national, and the international market. Like I said, I think I would just like to have a little more rigor around the agreement and open the lines of communication more frequently than we have.
Well, you gotta let them know you're looking it over, and your commission wants answers to these things, so.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. So I think I'm hearing, yes, go ahead and start the conversation. I will invite Ellie or other members of the team to come to the September meeting and do a presentation for us on what they've been able to accomplish over the last 3 years. Give us a little bit of an understanding of what the ROI has been on that investment. Then I think at the September meeting, we can start having a conversation about how do we want to move forward with the agreement. Gives me some time too to talk to Mike Davis and to Bill Burns from the city's perspective.
Right.
I have a question. On
Yeah.
number 2 here on the contract, it says that, what, 10% of the 17% goes to sports promotion and sports event. So is that going to the sports commission, or is that, how is that
I was reading
working?
the same thing, Kevin.
Yeah,
'Cause
well,
they're asking us for 40 grand, and it looked like they should be getting a pretty big chunk of money out of our money already. Or is that
Right.
Destination Madison doing their own sports promotion and sports event solicitation?
Jamie, do you want to weigh in on that if you're still with us? I can't see if he's on the. Is he
I don't
still?
think he's on
He
anymore.
just dropped off actually, just a couple,
Okay.
like a minute ago.
Okay.
To me, it seems like that should read 10% of the 17%, like that doesn't seem right.
I think you're correct.
But I think Kevin makes a good point. They're also asking for $40,000, but they're getting dollars already.
Right.
Mhm.
Well,
Right.
are they? That's the question.
Oh, yeah.
Destination
Right.
Madison giving
Well,
them?
and I think that's why we raised the issue about using that $40,000 grant money for sales opportunities, because you're already getting a percentage of the room tax collection, which should be going to the operating expenses, which I would think, sending folks to trade shows would be an operating expense. I think Jamie's rationalization there was that one person is going, but we can't afford to send 2.
Yeah.
Therefore, we're taking funds out of that line that was intended for events.
Yep.
So yes, I think number 2 needs to be changed. Kevin, that should say 17%,
Clarified.
not 70. Yep.
Well, do we know that?
That was what I had requested initially from them. So I quite honestly, full disclosure, I think that got overlooked when we signed off on this.
Yeah, because otherwise it reads that we're giving them 27%. If it's 10 of the 70 and 17 of the 70, but then it also mentions allocate a portion of the receipts identified above. So that
Right.
alludes to the 17%,
Yeah,
equal to 10% of their total receipts would go to, but then it also says in number 2 that it will go to sports promotion and sports event solicitation. So if that's going to sports event solicitation, then why would we be paying for you to go to
right.
a trade show? That's what you're doing, is soliciting sports events there. So
In the previous contract, MASC had their own agreement. When they blended those
Yep.
two organizations in 2019,
Yep.
that's where we tried to make a note of the fact that we wanted the bulk of that 17% to be
Yep.
going to MASC.
Yep.
Because I felt we were getting a better return on our investment from their efforts. So that definitely needs to be cleaned up. Thank you for
Yeah.
bringing that up, Kevin.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
The other thing I would just say is, as something I've always done as a good business practice, is to send the cancellation letter regardless if you want to keep going or not. So you do have the power. You can be happy as you want, but I always send the 60 or 90-day notice on anything like this that auto renews, no matter how happy I am with the company. So I have leverage. It's just a good business. But even on that simple one before that, I would cancel and then re-sign a new clean agreement.
Okay, I'll ask the city attorney how he wants to handle that for us.
I think too, like whenever this is all hashed out, we can always go back to the trade shows or sales missions and stuff like that, if we want to identify where that should
Well,
be
and
used.
I think that could come up as part of the discussion for how are we going to move forward with an agreement for the next 3 years.
Right.
So at this point, all I was looking for was a directive on how you wanted to proceed, and I think I've got that. So I will just reach out to Ellie and we'll get the conversation rolling.
Sounds good. So are we finally at the budget review?
Oh boy, I'm gonna do the best I can to blow through this in a half hour.
Does anyone need a restroom break?
Yeah.
Sorry, we knew this was going to be a long meeting.
It's just shorter than some of the
Kathy?
ones I have to do at night, so I'm fine.
Kathy, are you trying to get to personnel at 6?
Yes.
Okay. All right, can you all see this? Whoops,
No.
no, I can't see it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm looking at it on my own screen. It's bigger.
Is it showing up on the Zoom?
Not on mine.
Let me try this. Now is it?
Yes.
Yes. I
right.
can see it.
Everybody good?
Mhm.
So looking at 2021. Just a couple of trend thoughts here. Our July STAR report, our occupancy is up to 61%, which is the best we've had in a year. We're still off pace compared to 2019, but making slow improvements. The average daily rate is up to $103.45. So that's an improvement over the $87 that we were at last month. However, in view of everything, we're still 43% below our pace in 2019. Business travel is still very slow to recover. The group business had been picking up and was on an uptick for Q3. The Q4 group business, a little bit slower for the month of December. Leisure travel subsides in Q4. And based on our earlier conversation, some concerns are starting to arise due to the uptick in the COVID-19 cases. I'm staying with our original projection of 70% of 2019 for Q3 and 70% of 2019 for Q4. Our actual room tax collections year to date were 73,179.28 for Q1, 162,193.57 for Q2. Based on the projections for Q3 and Q4, we're looking at ending up with $282,000 and some change here. So I'm projecting that our budget is gonna end up to be $781,992. That's with all 4 of the quarters computed. That's gonna give us a shortfall of 135,494, which is a little bit different than the spreadsheet that I sent out yesterday. I made one small change on the spreadsheet I'm going to show you today. Our tourism fund balance at the end of 2019 was $2,304,662. That went down a little bit in 2020 to $2,176,691. And Bill and I are forecasting the ending balance for 2021 to be anywhere between 1.5 and 1.8 million. So we're continuing to go in the wrong direction there. And then the 17% that we're paying out to Destination Madison will come to 124,883.68. Moving over to 2022. At the time that I started looking at forecast in July, everybody was pretty optimistic about how things were going to go for 2022. So I am staying with 80% of 2019 actual numbers for the year, which will put us at $1,112,354. Our projected budget is a little bit more than that, $1,284,256. So again, looking at a shortfall right now of $171,902. DM 17%. If we continue on with that percentage of room tax collections for them, will be 189,118. Any questions on that so far? And again, 2022, back in July, everything was looking pretty good. The leisure and domestic travel was anticipated to be fully recovered by the end of 2022. Meetings travel was increasing, business travel was showing steady improvement. I think the biggest concern that we were hearing about midway through the year was the workforce shortages and the impact that those continued workforce shortages are going to have on businesses. So we're keeping an eye on that. Moving through the operating budget. I got to move you out of the way here. The biggest changes are going to be in the website. Well, maybe the easiest way to do this is just I'll go through 2021 first, and we'll just talk about some changes here. So our training budget in 2021, I'm forecasting we're going to end up over what we budgeted, and that's primarily because we've also got our memberships included in this line. We added the U.S. Travel Association this year to our memberships because their research was just amazing and so incredibly helpful. It's both it and Destination Wisconsin Destination International are over $1,000, and they're a sliding scale based on what your budgets are. So we may be paying a little bit more next year because of the increase that we're anticipating in the budget. I think we'll still be below, though, the threshold that we're currently in. Scaled way back on research. Brand refresh, I'm going to hold at 61,000 here. We're, as Mari noted, we're doing our best to try to get all of that work completed in 2021. Tourism grants, right now we have $13,100 committed. So we still have a little bit left if someone else comes in. MASC, got a little bit of money left there. Right now we're at 24.5 with them. Trade show grants, as Corey noted earlier, some refunds came back to us for that one. Destination partnership, we have invested $10,000 in the Stonehorse Green fundraising consultant. We made our last payment on that commitment this year, and we also spent $500 contributing to a cooperative Destination Wisconsin tourism campaign. So we have a few dollars left in that fund as well. City branding, this was for landmark plaques. They are actually going to be produced in 2021. I'm kind of chuckling because I think this is the third year we've carried that over, but we're close into making the expense. Downsized a little bit on some of our expenditures for advertising, made some adjustments in the TV and online advertising, and Mari has been doing the social media work and the e-newsletters in-house, so we recognize some savings there. 2021 visitor guide actually came in at $5,000 because we just went online with that. So the 25 that we have left in here should cover the expenses for the 2022 visitor guide, which we will also be having a print version this year. Destination Madison, again, based on the 17% per our agreement. Building funds, I'm going to leave this as is. After we went through all of the solicitations for RFIs on different services like ceiling replacement, lighting, electrical, plumbing, walls, paint, the bids or the information that we got came out to about $42,000. If we want to try to get the front lobby painted this year, the quote we got on that was $7,500. So if we can get all of this work completed this year, we'd be looking at $49,000. Public relations, again, we scaled back a little bit on that line by reducing the number of sweepstakes that we did. And then, of course, with the trolley, running it on a limited service schedule, this is what I am anticipating we will see at year end for that. So again, with all of these adjustments, we're still going to be looking at a shortfall, which this number that's on here needs to be changed to 135,494. Any questions on the remainder of the year? Okay, moving over to 2022. Wages may be impacted by a COLA increase, which will be determined by the Common Council as they work through the budget process on their end. Website, we're looking at doing a complete overhaul of our website next year. And the estimates that Mari has gotten so far, the highest one we heard was 65,000. So I'm going with that for now. We're also anticipating that the maintenance costs are going to increase from $8,000 to $12,000. Training, hoping to get back out on the road and get some professional development opportunities for staff. So I'm increasing that line as well as the travel budget. Again, that would be due to travel to in-person conferences. Research. We'd like to do a little more research next year on marketing to meetings, convention ad placements, marketing research for digital ad placement, marketing research for digital services like social media and ad placements. And in addition, I would like to continue getting the economic impact report from Tourism Economics that basically gives us a recap of how tourism has contributed to the economy in Middleton specifically. And I would like to continue to get the STAR report, which shows us the occupancy trends specifically for Middleton. Brand refresh, again, we anticipate that most of these expenses will be able to be incurred in 2021, but I'm holding over some contingency funds just in case we can't get everything accomplished. One of those, I'm sure, will be the rewrapping of the trolley. And then other expenses, I neglected to note over here in 2021, we're going to have more expenses from the city attorney due to the branding project and the question about the logo being too similar to the Brewers. But we should see less attorney fees next year, especially if we get the Simple View contract resolved in 2021 and the GMCVB contract resolved in 2021. The only contract we should have to manage in 2022 will be with the trolley. I'd like to put a little more back into the grant line for next year in anticipation of new business coming online. Jamie had mentioned, as we talked earlier, he would like to go back to the 40,000 that we had previously been giving them. I added Corey's request for dairy state tours or the group tour market trade shows. And then Jim, I also included 6 events that the Marriott had previously submitted grants for, just as a placeholder for us for national organizations like PCMA, IMAX, MPI, those kinds of events. Destination partnership, I upped that to 25,000. We do have some what I would call annual sponsorships that we've contributed to, Circle Wisconsin being one. We made a contribution to Bachfest when it was held in person in 2019. There's several other smaller ones in here for meetings and organizations that have met with us annually, can't apply for a grant, but it's a way to still acknowledge that we appreciate their business. I'm gonna just put B-Cycle in the parking lot for a minute and come back to that after we've gone through the rest of the list. Next up would be street banners. The last time we did a refresh on the street banners was 2018. The intention at that point was to have them last for 5 years, and they managed to make it through another year, but we really do need to think about replacing those next year. Mari dialed down the advertising just a little bit next year, and much of this is due to in-house work that she'll be doing for us. Again, we expect expenditures to be a little bit less on the visitor guide for 2023 than they have been in the past. Part of that is due to the fact that we're reducing the number of copies that we have ordered. Promotions, that will be basically replenishing the inventory of giveaway items that we haven't been able to cover through the brand refresh. DM payments based on the 17%. I'm taking off the marketing expense for Pilch and Barnett. That was the retainer fee. It's unknown at this point because we haven't chosen a marketing agency, whether we'll have a retainer fee or we'll just be going on a project basis. So this might be a discussion item for us, whether we want to move this up into advertising just as a cushion or operate under the premise that we will not be having a retainer and everything will be on a project basis. Building and maintenance, this will cover the cost of exterior painting for the building and any interior painting that we might not be able to accomplish in 2021. And then just some contingency funds in here for things like HVAC. Moving into the home stretch, public relations. We're dialing back what we've been doing on sweepstakes, which will reduce that line, doing more smaller, targeted, focused giveaway on social media. And then last but not least, the trolley expense for 2022, assuming that we are operating on the full schedule per the agreement. So I'm going to take a breath. Any questions, comments, concerns with what I've shown you so far?
I have a question. Will the new branding be part of the banners that you're putting up, or will you stay with the city logo, or will it be the new tourism logo?
You know, we haven't really talked about that, Kathy, but I could see it being a combination
Okay.
of those things. And I know you and I talked a couple of years ago about maybe using these banners to designate different districts
Yeah.
in the community. So I think we can pursue discussion on that too, whether we want to have the downtown entertainment, shopping,
Yeah.
dining.
The fun district, and then the
Yeah,
other.
yeah. So more to follow on that.
Very small question. Would there be any benefit to breaking out the training and the memberships so you could track it easier? Is there any benefit?
I thought about asking Bill about that. That was on my list. I'm not sure why it was set up that way. And he may just opt to leave it that way because it's been that way. But the other question I did ask today was if we could break out the branding, the website expense, because I can just imagine what the council is going to say to me when they see, well, you've had an $8,000 budget and now you're going to $77,000. What gives? So.
They trust you, Julie.
No, I appreciate that, Kathy. But I also think it will be easier for us to track if it's broken out.
Yes.
So again, I'm waiting to hear back from Bill on that.
Good. A lot of work in this.
Yeah, thank you.
Very much appreciate.
Thank you. And then very quickly, B-Cycle. So those of you who have been on the commission for a while will remember that B-Cycle approached us, I guess that was back in 2019, with the opportunity to have bikes in the community. It came to the commission. The commission was asked to help support the operating costs at $150,000 annually. We had agreed to it with some contingencies. By the time it got to the Common Council, it was very apparent in that budget year that funds were not going to be available to cover the startup costs, which were like 2 times what the operating fees were. So that was the end of the discussion. They've come back to us again with another proposal, and this time they are not going to be charging us any operating fees because they have garnered enough memberships to actually cover the cost of operating the bicycles in the community. So it became much more attractive to us this go around. Can you guys see this?
No,
Okay, let me try one more time here. Now, can you?
No,
No?
Nope.
I can't see anything.
Okay. What they're proposing is 32 e-bikes with 58 docking stations, no ongoing operating commitment. We would be the first community that would be strictly all e-bikes, no combination of standard bikes and the e-bikes. The bikes are available from March 15th through December 15th.
Mhm.
They are proposing 9 stops, 2 of which would be in the area of local hotels. One is in Greenway Station and one is on Deming Way. Mike sent me an email today and just noted that he felt this would be a huge boost for tourism, that young people would love the opportunity to have access to the bikes, that an older demographic like himself, I'm quoting, could be introduced to, or could be induced to get on a bike and ride a couple of miles because of the proximity to the hotels. He also noted that we spend a lot of time marketing our conservancies and trails, and that the e-bikes would be a natural extension of what that is. Given the current state of affairs with the virus, he felt that it was safer than being on a trolley and an Uber or a taxi. He thinks it's a great new market for Middleton, and if we embrace it in a small municipality, it will give us a huge strategic advantage with competition statewide and regionally for conference planners, especially those in the millennial age demographic, and conference attendees who will be skewing more heavily millennial in the next few years. And then Mark Opitz had noted on the placement of the stations that they would be 100 feet or so from the hotel buildings, and that for some hotel residents, it would be a shorter walk to the e-bike than it might be to their parked car. It is a good opportunity for us. I would love to see us have e-bikes here. I think it would be a nice addition to the trolley as an amenity for transportation. I think the challenge for us is going to be that the ask, as far as the financial contribution, is that we cover the cost of half of the funding for the 3-year period, which is the startup fees that will cover 3 years. So what the planning committee is asking for from us is a commitment for $80,000, and they are proposing to finance the balance of that from TIF funding. I
And
haven't
just-
been, excuse me.
Go
Just-
ahead. I was just gonna say, that's the same deal that Madison got, right? Ish, or,
I don't know, Corey. I was just going to say, I haven't been involved in any of the conversations
okay.
surrounding the e-bikes. I just got the proposal from Abby last week. So I think maybe what's happening here is they're looking to see if there's interest from us and if we're willing to support it financially. And then next steps for them would be to take it to the council and discuss the TIF funding. Or the
I'm
plan commission maybe first, Kathy.
Yeah. Well, I'm confused when you said that they would have two stations near the hotels, which would be in Greenway and on Deming Way, but then Mark Opus is saying they'd be close to the hotels. What am I missing?
The hotel's at Deming and then the hotel's at Greenway.
Yeah, so
Because
he's
I think
probably
that
talking
Deming one
about,
would be right down by the path, right?
yeah.
Well,
Right,
if
and
we're
it's-
footing half the bill, I would think half the stations should be close to hotels. Just saying.
It's a comment that I made. And the response was, there are two that are in close proximity to the hotels.
I was just gonna throw this out there because I agree. I feel like this would be a value add-on for the hotels. I'm not as optimistic, I don't think, as Mike, that this is gonna be a huge tourism boost. And the only reason I say that is because e-bike is expensive. If you buy an annual pass and you're a local like me that lives here, it's not expensive. But if you're like a family of four that's looking to get a bike for like a couple hours, it's not cheap. And I think that's the biggest holdup with me with it. But with that being said, I still feel like it's worth pursuing. I just wonder if there's probably nothing we can do about that, but maybe it's something worth noting.
And I did, when we talked about this at the CD meeting, that was today, today's Tuesday, this morning, I did mention that, I have concerns that we're already going into a shortfall with our budget just on operating costs to do the day-to-day business that we need to be doing as a department. And I don't know if there are any opportunities through the state of Wisconsin Tourism Department for grants that would cover this type of an expenditure, or if the grant funds that are supposed to be coming from the state that are ARPA related funds to DMOs, which my understanding was a $15 million bucket, if any of that money could be used towards something like this. I can try connecting with the person at the Wisconsin Department of Tourism that manages grants and just see if Heidi has any ideas on what the funds might be available for usage. But that was one thought. If we could get some money that would help offset that 80, that makes it a little more palatable for us. I think the most that we have given in my tenure was for the consultant for Greenway, excuse me, for Stone Horse Green, to get the fundraising package together. And that was a total of $55,000. In the past, we've given Destination Madison $25,000 for the Essential Madison experiences. We gave $30,000 to the outdoor sports training facility to start cutting the trails for the cross-country ski portion of that facility.
I guess what I missed it. So these e-bikes would be rented by people that wanted to use them. Is that correct?
Yes.
So the idea with the hotels is like, if you have somebody at the desk, it's like a family, or let's just say a couple walks up and they're like, hey, what is there to do around here? Well, we have these great trails. You can go for a walk, or you can go over here and rent a bike. I mean, that's basically what it would be. I feel like people would use it.
Yeah.
For sure. If we can get around the cost, because I was just, that's always been my big thing with it, is for just a one and done. It's not cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's you and your family, and then Mari just sent through $10 to $20 an hour. I mean, you go take an $80 bike ride for an hour.
That's the thing.
That was just an average I found online. I don't know what Wisconsin averages are. I couldn't find like.
I was just looking at B-Cycles pricing, and you're right on. It's spot on. It's $10 an hour, $5 for 30 minutes. and it's $20 a month, and that's unlimited 60-minute trips, and then it's $100, $120 for an annual pass. So like if you make that long-term commitment, the annual pass hands down is not expensive, you know,
Yeah.
$10 a month. But for a tourist, you know, not to go back to the trolley, but you can take a free trolley ride, or you can rent bikes for $40 an hour. You know, it's not apples to apples, but you know,
Right.
just looking at attractions or whatever, you know.
You know, the other thing
I
about,
really feel
oh,
like
go
there's
ahead.
value there for sure. I think it's another value add-on that you know we have. It's just a matter, I guess, of the commitment. And I know when they came to us last time, they wanted like $150,000 or something, didn't they?
Annually over a 3-year period.
Yeah, and
So this is considerably less than we were asked to contribute in 2019.
I see a lot of people using them downtown Madison a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and granted, I realize we don't have the traffic like downtown, but there are a lot of trails out in here. You might have people who are tourists that come in who didn't want to bring their bike for a weekend
Yeah.
and have the money. I mean,
you might have somebody that's already got the pass,
right.
you know?
And if you promote it well enough and people know it's there, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, having them both out at the hotel, in my opinion, I mean, I know the one over by, it's off of that, where is it? I'm sorry, it's over by Costco in that area. So they can get on the trail, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would be nice if there was something a little bit closer to downtown. You never know, locals might use it, but I don't think they'd drive out to the hotel to park and use it, but they
Yeah,
might
no,
use it
and
if they were downtown.
I'm with you, Susan. I think to me, it just sounds more like a great community amenity and less of a tourism attraction. I mean, it'd be a tourism amenity. It'd be something that our front desk could tell somebody that's available down the street. I just don't see it impacting room tax collections at all. You know what I mean? It's something that, okay, look, Middleton's now got e-bikes, but should tourism be funding it?
You know, and I think that was the struggle for me too, Jim, is that and we had that conversation in 2019. There's no real hard data that
Right.
supports e-bikes as a driver for paid overnight stays.
Right.
On the other hand, it's a great amenity.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, I
would
mean, I
get
wouldn't.
that would get people out into the conservancy.
Yep.
I think it comes down to the question of do we have $80,000 that we want to put in to the initiative? Now, there hasn't been any discussion about sponsorships, and I know that there are sponsorship opportunities. So I don't know if that's something that Abby and her team have discussed with B-Cycle, and if there are sponsorship, if that reduces the amount of funds that they would be looking for from us and from TIF funding.
Do you think that, I mean, is it worth just, even if we did like $40,000, like you get half of it, I mean, I don't know, we're getting into this, who covers this and who covers that
Right.
scenario, but you know, it's like these gray area items fall under the other portion of the room tax that comes in, you know, that we don't get.
It goes to the general fund, right?
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
I would like to see it here, but I guess I'm maybe seeing that more as a local than I am from a hotel standpoint.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you need for that right now?
Well, we could do a couple of things. We could tell them that we don't feel like we have the funds available and come back with an alternative suggestion after reviewing sponsorship opportunities, or I can put it in the budget as a placeholder, and we can request them to come back with a presentation in September and have a discussion with the planning team and B-Cycle and just do a deeper dive on it.
We're looking at probably, if we can divide it in three, and do we know that we can do it annually or no?
I don't. I asked the question and the question wasn't answered by the time of our meeting.
Because I
I'm
feel like if we have
guessing-
to write a check for $80,000 next year, I don't, that I don't know. But like, even if you divide that by three, what is that,
20
26 and a
something.
half or something
Yeah.
like that? Like,
Yeah.
That
I
would
guess
be
the
better.
question for
Yeah,
everyone is-
and that's one of the things that I told the group this morning, that would be a lot more palatable over if we could break that down over a 3-year period of time. I'm thinking the answer will probably be no, because they're actually purchasing the bikes for the city. So there's upfront cost to B-cycle too.
Then we only get X amount of bikes that we can afford.
But I mean, you could make that a contingent that we're willing to contribute the 80 if it's broken out over a 3-year period.
Boy,
I
don't
think
know.
the challenge for our colleagues at City Hall is they're going through the same budget process that we are. And I'm sure this will be part of the discussions going forward when it gets time to talk about capital budgets and TIF spending. So they need some kind of a commitment from us in order to be able to move forward. Or just, we can't afford to do it at this point in the game.
Well, the funny thing is we really can't afford to do anything.
Hey,
Well, and
we got
you
the
know,
Middleton Tourism Commission bank sitting there.
yeah, the other side of that is we do have a very robust fund balance.
Right.
Is it the kind of expense that you would want to tap into the reserves to cover?
I mean, if it were me and they were like, well, can we just take 80 grand? That to me is not what that fund balance is for. Unless it was some huge tourism opportunity, but there is tourism potential, I guess, with it, but
sure.
you have the money. So I guess the question is if we don't think the 3-year is on the table, let's just assume that it's just $80,000. Do we want to be a 50-50 partner in something, or do we want to just, say we'll put in 40 and be a 25% partner on it or something? I don't know if that's even going to work, but do you have any feedback on that, Julie, or any
I don't,
recommendation?
Cory. All I have is what I've given you.
Amenity, I guess, is the way we got to look at it.
Yeah.
You would think they'd have good data for one-time use at the stations around hotels in Madison. That would give us an idea of
Yeah.
tourism use a little bit.
And B-cycle may, Kevin, that's why I'm suggesting perhaps we put it in the budget as a placeholder,
Yeah,
not commit, ask for a presentation in September. I mean, I can ask them to cover some of these concerns that we have, sponsorship, payment plan, and
I think-
data.
I'm good with that.
Yep.
I think we need to take a deeper dive into it. I don't know who that would be with Mike or whoever, and just be realistic about it, and I would like to see the city pick up a little bit more of the tab, because we've been picking up more of the tab on the trolley when that was proposed as, kind of a local flag. It's the same idea,
Right. Right.
I think that, and just see where they're at with it. But yeah, I mean, putting the placeholder in, I think it's fine. And then we go from there.
Okay.
As long as you're okay with it, I guess I would just follow your lead on that one.
Yeah, I'm conflicted because I would love to see it happen as an amenity and another activity for visitors to participate in and take advantage of when they come. But I'm always looking at that. How is it supplementing our revenue stream?
right.
How is it generating paid overnight stays? It'll probably be used significantly by transient tours. So that,
Yeah.
I mean, that meets criteria number 2. And then the third criteria is is this really tourism development? Is this a tangible municipal development? Is it tourist information? Is it a marketing project? Probably doesn't meet any of that criteria.
No. It'd probably do pretty good. They put a station over by Kevin though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I was,
we actually, because we had so many people asking when they would come here after a tour or before a tour, could we take a bike ride before tour started at 3 o'clock? And we
Mhm.
actually looked into doing our own bike
Yeah.
rental system. I even talked to a company out of Florida that was a lot cheaper than
Oh,
the
really?
recycle. Yeah.
no, I,
We do get a lot of requests like that.
I think
Yeah,
that
I
having
definitely
a
Maybe
say-
that
location
angle would be better.
makes sense there. I mean, Capitol Brewery is one of our bigger destinations in Middleton, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I'm constantly recommending it from guests and groups that inquire about area activities and things to do. I mean, imagine if you could rent one of these bikes, drive it down to Capitol Brewery and drop it there and charge it there, what have you. I'm not sure exactly how it all works, if there's slots or if you got to return it to the exact same spot that you were at. I don't know, but
Can you see this now?
yeah.
In other
Yeah.
cities, you can park it in different slots, Jim.
Yeah, see,
I
now
don't know
that's,
if we can do that here. But
Well,
that's-
we had talked about that geofencing at one point, but they're moving away from that. B-Cycle's moving away from it. So here's the,
If you scroll down just as.
yeah,
Yeah.
these are the
There, right
proposed,
there.
these are the proposed stations.
Capitol Brewery, 10 docks, 6 bikes. See, I mean, that makes
Yep.
sense, Now, something like that, I can see, I don't know, I could see it spurring more spend in some of these local establishments for sure.
Right.
And then this
And
is,
the Middleton market's another.
this is
good
phase
one, I think.
2.
When does phase 2 have to be paid for, or is that all part of that?
Let me see. Here's the proposal.
Oh, okay, so
That's
then
all I know.
option 2 is, is option 2 all of those?
I think so. I think, and then it's what, 80,000, so it's half off for the phase 1, so you're talking about 80.
Yeah,
So 125 is what I would assume for the phase 2.
And I'm
like I
not,
said, I was just gonna say, I think we should go ahead and just do the placeholder and ask all the questions and discussion points that we're bringing up right now.
okay.
I
Yeah,
think phase 2 is a whole nother 200, by the number of
an
locations
additional?
that get added, I think it's a whole nother 250. or
That
whatever.
was my impression as well. Like,
They're adding a lot more, yeah.
yeah,
you're right.
There's-
Yeah, there's
they've
9
got a lot more.
additional.
they're
I
at
mean,
that
what was
whole
the-
other.
the first one was what, 32 bikes? And if we counted them up here, that's probably what it comes out to.
6 times 18, 22,
Yeah.
32. Yep.
40, yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're right, for sure.
Well,
Okay.
if you're good with that, that's, I'll report back then.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'll add that 80 to the budget. And then I do need a motion to approve the budget as amended with that placeholder in destination partnership.
Make a motion to approve it with the placeholder and destination.
I'll second.
All right, any other discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Uh,
Anybody opposed? Better not, I'm running out of gas.
Yeah,
Oh,
thanks
you know
for
what?
hanging in there, everybody. I know this was,
We
we had a
do.
lot on the agenda today, but I appreciate you sticking with it.
No worries. Good
Okay,
meeting.
so next steps on the budget, I will submit this to the finance department on Friday, and then somewhere between August 23rd and September 3rd, I will have a meeting with the finance committee, the mayor, and Mike Davis. And then things start going to finance. So if there are any changes after I talk to finance, Mike, and the mayor, I will let you know those at the September meeting.
Yep. Items for next meeting agenda.
Let's
have-
say GMCVB.
Yep.
Presentation. And B cycle. Presentation.
I was just gonna throw this out there too. I know that I am going to be out of town during that meeting. And I am fine if I'm not there. I just so we know we have a quorum.
I can put that out and ask folks, or we could change the date.
Yeah, it's up to you guys. I just will be out that week.
You know, I think with how busy everybody is, we might want to just look at changing the date to give the best opportunity to have a quorum.
Okay,
Because I personally, you know, things can pop up. I know I missed that meeting 2 or whatever months ago it was, and it was last minute and out of my control.
okay. Yeah, and stuff pops up. I understand that.
Yeah.
Why don't I put a doodle poll out? I'll offer 3 or 4 options to September 21st
Okay.
and see where we go from there. Anything else for next meeting besides GMCVB and B cycle?
I don't think
That's it.
so.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll just take a motion to adjourn then.
I move to adjourn.
Nobody wants to quit.
Sorry. I just
All
got
right.
something from somebody I have to respond to. Sorry.
Who's gonna second that bad boy?
Second.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a nice
Good
evening.
meeting. That was the marathon. That was our longest meeting of the year.
I think we set a record.
Now,
Have a good night, everybody.
have a
Good
good night,
night.
everyone. Thanks a lot.
Bye.